I want to quickly review the agenda, but before I do, I just want to note that we are going to record today's meeting. So for purposes of announcement, I'll ask Heather to begin the recording now. And I welcome everyone to our Workforce Council meeting. We all know each other. It's great to be back together. I know we had spent some time at the end of last week doing a retreat, which was really good for visioning some of the work and the vision, the strategic direction of the council. So happy to have the energy and enthusiasm of a near full council, and we continue to work on recruitment, which is one of the items that we'll be discussing in a little bit more detail today. But it's good to see a good cross-section of representatives on the council. I am the chair of the council, Claudia Gualtieri, OPM. Happy to be with you all. And Heather, did we want to go around? I know sometimes we do fun little warm-up exercises like what's your favorite summertime activity? I'm not sure if the council just wants to quickly introduce themselves for purposes of note keeping and to ensure that we have a quorum for today's discussion. So I'll ask Adam to start because he's top of my screen. We'll go Adam, Kathy, and then I'll ask Kathy to ping the next person and move forward from there.
Sounds good. So I'm Adam Prizio. I am a staff attorney with the Connecticut Office of the Healthcare Advocate. For those of you who may not know, we provide assistance for folks with all of their health insurance and health benefits disputes. Am I supposed to say my favorite summer activity, Claudio? I wasn't sure.
I don't know. Let's come up with a different question. You come up with it and ask everyone else. You could put everyone on the spot.
All right. What, if anything, do you have growing in your garden?
Oh,
I love that one.
And my answer is that this year we put in blueberry bushes around our house, and I think they're done fruiting, but it's been really wonderful to have fresh blueberries.
I'll go next. Kathy Flaherty. I'm an attorney and the executive director of Connecticut Legal Rights Project, and we provide legal representation to people who are eligible for mental health services from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. And what we have in our garden that was planted very late are some tomatoes, which are just starting to grow now, and a bunch of mint. There were some peppers and squash, but the rabbits got them. So that's all we have left. I'll go to Eileen.
Good morning. I'm Eileen Healy. I'm the Executive Director of Independence Northwest in Naugatuck. We are one of the 5 non-residential independent living centers, and we serve the northwest corner. I don't have a garden. I have in the past, so now I have a stray tomato plant growing in the middle of my lawn.
And Eileen, you could have the privilege of kicking it to someone else.
Oh, okay. How about to Peg?
Hi, I'm Peg Shagru-Szymanski, and I had a long career at Eversource. I'm retired now, and in my garden this year I planted echinacea, some bee balm, and some Joe Pye weed. And as I sit here at the last meeting looking out the window, I have seen some magnificent butterflies going by. So it's a good summer. And I kick it back to you, Claudio.
All right, yes, because I didn't get to answer that question. So Claudia Gualtieri, I have, besides a lot of weeds growing in my garden, there is a couple basil plants, and I just love freshly picked basil with a ripe tomato, like an heirloom tomato, crunchy bread, cannot beat it. So I focus on the basil plants, and in my view of thinking, it's the weeds that keep the coolness so that I have to water less. So I get away with a 2-for-1. I will go to Denise.
Okay. Well, this year I was very bad. I was not the green thumb I wanted to be. I tried with the grass that is now yellow. So that is upsetting. It was beautifully green, and now with all this hot weather. So now it's just lavender that I have on the side of my house. So that's always nice to smell and have, but I'm not going to have a bounty of anything this year. Unfortunately. Let's go with Heather.
Thanks, Denise.
Yeah.
So I have flowers in the back, but I have a small herb and vegetable garden in the front, and then tried 2 new things this year. And one of them is eggplants. And I have a couple tiny little eggplants, and they're so cute. So I'm very excited for my eggplants, and I'll report back next time I see you all. Hopefully the critters won't take them, because that's always an issue as well. So Lucas, I believe you are the only person who hasn't shared yet.
Yes, my name is Lucas Sunwall. I'm a Quinnipiac law student. I'm also a newer member to the council. My family, like Claudio, very much enjoys basil. So we have a lot of that this summer, which has been very, very nice for different meals. So, yeah.
Excellent. I don't know if we got to Melissa, so I'll make sure that we intentionally include Melissa in here to round us out. And I think there also may be a guest that we would want to ask to speak up.
So I see how it is. The transition to Heather has started. Everybody's like, bye-bye.
It's my fault. I'm so sorry.
So I'm Melissa Morton. I'm a planning specialist here at the Office of Policy and Management, and have the pleasure of working with Claudio and Heather on many projects, including the PCA Workforce Council. And I will say, my husband is the one who handles all the gardening. I'm terrible. And he planted a couple of years ago hydrangeas all around our back deck, and they are absolutely spectacular. That is my favorite thing. So that is what we are growing this year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our guest. And do I say pronounce your name Malik? I don't want to say it wrong, but you can introduce yourself. Oh. Oh, you're on mute. See, I'm trying to get off mute. And I can't unmute him. Okay. Well, if you're able to unmute yourself, we'd love for you to introduce yourself at some point. Just interrupt if you can hit *6 if you're calling in. I think we might just need to move on.
Right. So then, and I just echo Melissa's sentiment, we're an informal group. And so if you are able to unmute and like to share your name, we're happy to do that at any time. And I see then in the chat that the mic doesn't work, unfortunately, and he's a member of the public. So the chat includes a little introduction, and sadly he doesn't have a garden, but hoping one day to have his own mint plants. I think that's great, and I love all the ideas. That's Adam, I think this is one I'm going to use to refresh my ice-breaking questions, because we're sort of tapped out with all these Zoom meetings. For purposes of reviewing today's agenda, I will turn it to Heather and the individual subcommittee leads, who will report out on the training fund, the new member orientation, and the bylaws. After which we will have a brief update on the implementation of the collective bargaining agreement. Melissa and Heather will take the lead in walking us through there, certainly open to questions and comments at that time. And next, we'll recap our strategic planning meeting that was last week. Finally, that'll lead us into a membership update. Public comment would be at 10:55 we're scheduled for. Typically, we ask that public comments be limited to 3 minutes, and members of the public will be invited to either raise hand or unmute in order to provide comment at that time. I'll then ask for a motion to go into executive session. Once we return from executive session, we will just make a motion to adjourn. There's no votes expected after our executive session today, but we will formally come back to close out the meeting. So with that, I'll turn to Heather for agenda item number 2, the subcommittee reports.
Thank you, Claudio. And I stopped sharing the agenda so that I don't know how other people's screens are, but that way people can see each other's faces. And if I can share the screen again at any point if people need a refresher on where we are. So thank you all. And once again, I apologize, Melissa, for not thinking that we were all done, but I'm glad to hear about your hydrangeas too, because they're my favorites as well. Okay, so just our subcommittee reports. I'm going to start with the training fund. The training fund will be having a meeting tomorrow, actually, July 27th at 9:30 a.m. and continue its important work. And you know, I will hopefully have more to report back on what the latest initiatives are with that at our next quarterly meeting. And with that, I will hand it over to Eileen to give us a little update on the new member orientation subcommittee.
Okay, quickly, the new member orientation subcommittee has met a couple of times now. And thanks to Denise, we have a Google Doc that we can use to get our thoughts organized. We asked new members, you know, what were the questions that you asked as a new member, and kind of built some information off of that. It's still in progress, but we are working on it.
Thank you, Eileen, and I'm very grateful to that group and to Denise for getting the Google Docs going. I think we're really, as you said, making some really good progress there and getting all the information compiled that will be helpful to both new council members and also prospective members who might be interested in serving on this council. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Kathy Flaherty for an update on the bylaws subcommittee.
Thank you, Heather. This is Kathy. The bylaws subcommittee has met a couple of times, and I think we decided that after, 10 years of being in existence, it's probably a good idea to have formal bylaws for the council. And we're sort of starting from scratch in a way because we don't have existing bylaws. However, the Massachusetts equivalent of us has bylaws which have kind of served as a model. And then we are going to be bringing in some things that we like from some of the other committees, like the rebalancing committee, because there are elements of those bylaws that we thought we wanted to include. I mean, we're really kind of restricted to be based on the Connecticut statute. So that's sort of where we focused on. So my hope is that if I'm organized enough to get a draft to people ahead of our next meeting, that our next subcommittee meeting might be our last meeting, and then we can bring it to this full council for ratification and we can dissolve the subcommittee, which would be great.
And I think, Kathy, I agree that it is, once again, thanks to you and to the rest of the subcommittee for all your great work on that and using the Massachusetts Workforce Council bylaws as a template to get going on that. And the work of the committee will be done. It may be something that the committee, actually, I don't know if this particular group will reconvene, but it'll be something that the Workforce Council may wish to sort of revisit every couple of years to make sure that the bylaws are still, you know, what they want them to be. That they may require revision at some point, or it may just be like the Workforce Council looks at it and says, yep, these are still great. This is still what we want. So so when you said dissolve, it's like, well, maybe not forever. But yes, the work of that group will be concluded at that point, and look forward to getting the full council's input. Claudio, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. And Kathy, I love the idea of taking best practices and learning from our neighbors to the north of Massachusetts, especially because it's a similar benchmark state for a lot of stuff. Wondering, how were you able to go about getting the bylaws? Is there a website? Is it very publicly available? And if so, or if not, are there other channels that we can use to sort of import some learnings and best practices from Massachusetts just for purposes of the Workforce Council that we should consider?
This is Kathy. Personally, I think Heather sent them to me, which means that she and Melissa might have gotten them from somewhere, and I don't know where, but I was not the one to obtain them. So they might be able to answer that question better than I can.
They were in fact publicly available. They, as we do here in Connecticut, they have a Workforce Council website with a lot of great information publicly available. So as there are other things that would be helpful to the council, I'd be happy to bring those forward and any other things that might be useful to the group as a whole. Melissa, anything you wanted to add to that? You're on mute, Melissa.
No, a lot of their information, including their training information, are all publicly available right on the Massachusetts Workforce Council website. They also have a phone number where the executive assistant, I think she mainly does triaging. So usually I get put in touch with I end up talking to the director of the Massachusetts Office of Elder Affairs or their version of labor relations when we have additional questions. And I think I see Dawn joined and she might have a Massachusetts contact as well.
Yeah, sorry, I'm locked out of my computer. And so trying to work on that at the same time, but you're on my phone. So I do have so we work, however, primarily with the operational side of the implementation, not with the council. So my contact is with the legal folks who are advisors for the actual program. But as you mentioned, Melissa, one of the differences with Massachusetts is they are organized in what do they call their Medicaid agency, the Elder Affairs, I think you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But within that structure, so the council and all of the operational elements all report to the same, what do they call that? Secretary. They report to the same secretary. That's not really the way that we're organized. I think it's just an important consideration in order to, so literally replicating what that council does and how it's operating might not work. We have to take into consideration the state structures that are different. That's all. But I do have contacts and we work with them all the time. Same with Washington State. Like I'm going to say at least monthly, and same with Oregon. We're working with all of on the operations side. I don't know if that's helpful. But I mean, so yeah, I could easily get the name of the person who's responsible on the council side.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, I just think that it may be helpful to have, it's always helpful to talk in peers across similarly situated states. So to the extent that we have those resources on the ready when we get to, thornier issues or things that are really creative and novel that they've undertaken that we could learn from, it would be great. I don't think we need to do anything. And there's no immediate action item, but it's great to know that with respect to the bylaws, for example, that's a pretty standardized thing. And to the extent that we can borrow and use that as a template, I thought that was a really efficient use of time. And so if there's other items like this that come up, or can be just a pulse check of how things are going with them on an ad hoc basis, is always good to bring back to our group. Thank you. And Dawn, you missed our second icebreaker. I know you missed our icebreaker in our retreat, but Adam had such a good question that I will take a moment of personal privilege to just put it to you because it was very creative. It was, what, if anything, do you have growing in your garden this summer? And I thought that was terrific. So just to recap and give you a second, we had some basil that was growing in the garden. We had mint, Kathy's rabbits and creatures in the lawn ate her nice red peppers. We've had blueberries. So what is anything growing in the Lambert garden?
Lots growing in the Lambert garden. And I have some disease control issues, which I will not share at this particular meeting, which had me out this morning at 5:30 freaking, but lots of different tomatoes, lots of different, so 6 different kinds of tomato, like really into different kinds of heirlooms. And
whoa.
Yeah, and I believe this year we have 8 different kinds of pepper plants. The jalapenos are going crazy, by the way. If anybody needs jalapenos, let me know. 3 different kinds of okay, you guys got it, because I have more jalapenos. I gotta tell you, I have no idea what I'm gonna do with the jalapenos. And 2 different kinds of red peppers and piquillos and pimentos. Anyway, eggplant. I'm not going into more details because this could be the most exciting part of my day, Claudio.
I'm so glad we did this. See, who would have known? We learned something new, and it was definitely, you were the right person to kick us off.
I could go on. I mean, it's really bad, but if anybody wants fresh produce, let me know.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for that. And Heather, feel free to go back and continue us on the subcommittee report.
Oh. Actually, I think we're all set unless anybody has any questions about any of the 3 well, 2 subcommittees and 1 committee. Any questions from the council? Okay, so I will hand off to Melissa for item number 3, the update on CBA implementation.
Great, thanks, Heather. So the update on CBA implementation is going to be super quick. As you all are aware, the 2 parts of the CBA implementation that we could implement immediately were the wage increases for all workers. They got a bump as soon as the when the agreement was passed, as soon as was practicable, and then they got their second bump up pay increase on July 1st of this year. And we were also able to, thanks to the good work of the state agencies, implement the GWI increases as well. The 2% increase for hourly wage workers went into effect upon execution. I think it was in May, I want to say, or April, May. And then the per diems, who in lieu of a wage increase received, per diems have always received the general wage increase. That's been typical in all our contracts. But this year we provided GWIs an additional 2% GWI. So instead of getting the same GWI that hourly wage workers received, they received a 4% GWI. And that is strictly because per diem workers have never received an actual rate increase under the collective bargaining agreement because of all of the factors that go into determining what the per diem rate of pay is and needing CMS approvals. So the agreement this time around through this session of collective bargaining was, since we couldn't change the bundled daily rate for per diem workers, that we would give them an extra 2% GWI. So it effectively increases their, it does effectively increase their rate. But so they get 4% instead of 2%. That was, the first one was implemented in May, and the second one was, second 4% was implemented July 1. And that takes care of all the general wage increases that will happen under the current contract. So all the general wage increases have been made to this point. Everything else in the contract that was negotiated, so paid time off, paid sick leave, all that other good stuff, all those new benefits, they can't go into effect until we receive CMS approval. And the contract is very explicit in making that clear. And as you're all aware from our recent strategic planning session, that one of the main charges of the PCA Workforce Council is in fact to mitigate risk to our state's Medicaid program and to make sure that nothing that we do in collective bargaining jeopardizes the Medicaid program as a whole, or jeopardizes the state's access to our federal match. So getting that CMS approval before benefits are implemented was absolutely necessary. And that's why the council was so forthright about that and firm on that during bargaining. And it appears in every section of the CBA, just to make sure expectations are clear. And the other thing that was already implemented is the on 7-1 is the increase in funds to the 1199 training and upgrading fund to begin exploring how we can improve orientation and what types of additional skills enhancement training can be provided on a voluntary basis to better serve consumer employers and enhance the general skill knowledge of the workforce. That's all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Thank you, Melissa. So Claudio, if it's all right with you, I think I'll move on to item number 4, which is recapping our strategic planning meeting from last week.
Yes,
And
please do. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Claudia. And also I want to echo what you said at the outset of the meeting, that I thought it was a really great meeting that we had on Friday. The dialogue was fantastic. I really appreciated everybody's participation, and the progress we made. It was very energizing, I thought. And so there are two main focuses or foci of what the group discussed. And the second part was talking about planning, because there will be a new CBA that will be starting negotiations this fall. And that part obviously is not we're going to discuss that during executive session. But the part that we would like to share right now is about our goal setting, and that what we did was we reviewed the statute and what our statutory obligations are, and looking at really being the voice and advocate for consumer employers. And so really wanting to make sure that we're hearing more fully from consumer employers, doing outreach, doing listening sessions, focus groups, surveys, having consumer employers come and speak to the council to make sure that we're really reflecting what the needs and wishes are of consumer employers. Also, continuing to educate consumers, keeping them in the loop about what's been going on with the implementation of the CBA and resources that become available. And so what we're going to do, as I said, is, and the other thing we really talked about is recruitment of members as well. And we'll be talking more about that as well, and the importance of having diversity on the council, and succession planning, making sure that you're keeping, people, keeping a fully staffed council as much as possible, but also preparing for people who, people serve for a long time. Then, we want to make sure that we're creating opportunities for new people to come on and bring new perspectives as well, while also making sure that we keep enough institutional knowledge there. So what we're hoping for with our, talking about the next steps for the outreach to consumer employers, that, how to get these listening sessions up and running. What groups should we be reaching out to? Are there contact people that would be excellent point people in the community for us to reach out to? And also thinking about what questions we want to ask. What should we have in our surveys and our focus groups? So I'm hoping that that folks on the council will email me with their thoughts, if they have specific people that we can reach out to, or groups that you think we should reach out to, and their thoughts about what we should include as part of the questions. I mean, I think as a group we started talking about that a little bit, but the more thorough we can be in really getting their voice adequately represented, that's definitely the mission of this group, to represent consumer employers. Melissa, is there anything I forgot? Okay.
Sorry, no, Heather, you did a fantastic job, I think, setting up what our next steps are, and really hoping that council members will be able to guide us with good starting places for what types of information should we be collecting from consumer employers, and who should we be reaching out to, who, as Heather put it beautifully, who are the correct point people in the community for us to be reaching out to try and get consumer employer focus groups going, so that we can hear from them directly before collective bargaining begins, to hear what it is that's important to them before we start. And it would be nice to actually have their input, so that we're representing the consumer employer population with the confidence that we've actually heard directly from them what is needed.
Melissa, any other thoughts from questions or comments based on the session we had on Friday? Thank you all again for participating, because I really, as I said, I realize I might be a little bit Pollyannish, but I thought it was fabulous. So with that, I will pass it over to Melissa with our membership update.
Right. So our membership update is the same membership update that I think I've been giving for a year. So if anybody would like to help so that we can shake up our membership update, that would be fantastic. We have, so here's where we stand now. We have 3 vacancies. And the one where we just can't seem to fill, and is our member representing the interests of elderly consumers. People have put forward a lot of names for me, and I got to tell you that senior center directors are not going to do it. This much I've learned. They're just too busy. They just don't have time. So it would be great if we could, I know some folks have given names at the area agencies on aging. We hit all of them up and hit a wall there too. So any thoughts that you might have outside of senior centers and area agencies on aging? Again, with an eye towards diversity and trying to make sure that our council is representative of the Medicaid consumers that we serve. It would be great if we could get some more diversity on the council. Very open to either a member from an organization that represents older adults, or from an older adult who self-directs their own services, or is the caregiver of somebody who self-directs their services. Either would be perfectly acceptable. We do have somebody whose name I have not yet put forward, who did respond to our request in the Council Corner newsletter. And the only thing, he is a consumer. The only thing holding me up on that was that we have 3 spots, and I know we were trying to, we only have 3 spots vacant at this point in time. I know we were trying to get diversity on the council. That nominee does not assist us in that goal. So he is still somebody who is extremely interested though, and he is a consumer. And he would be representing the interests of consumers with physical disabilities. We also received a while back from DDS a nominee, Melissa Kreml, who was nominated to represent individuals with developmental disabilities, and actually her nomination never made it out of Senator Duff's office. But again, that also doesn't help with diversity on the composition of our council. So at this point, hers has been out there so long, I don't think she's interested anymore. So I think we're looking at trying to fill, at a minimum, consumers with developmental disability, someone to represent consumers with developmental disabilities, and someone to represent consumers who are older adults.
So, Melissa, a good suggestion from Peg in the chat about
Yes.
trying to work through our municipal leaders, especially in the larger municipalities, Hartford and New Haven. Maybe they have a health or senior service director that we can go to.
Great
I
idea.
think we may want to, I know that when we did the long-term care plan, we had some facilitated study groups, focus groups, one of which AARP. I mean, I don't know if there's people there because they were already self-selected and interested in the long-term care work that maybe we could go back to and urge them up the engagement ladder, and or seeing if they maybe AARP may be willing to help us with sort of a grass top strategy to recruit someone among their members that would fit the bill.
So I will tell you, Claudio, Anna, I reached out to Anna a couple times. She's been very helpful. Again, candidates that have come forward, including the ones from the listening sessions, don't assist in our diversity. So she's still trying, but I will certainly circle back with her again, because it's been probably about 3 months since I touched base with her on that. And I love the municipal idea. So thank you. I will definitely do that. But thanks, Claudio.
And
yes,
the other one is maybe going through CCCI. Maybe Julia Evans Starr has some contacts that she can help us with.
Great.
Kathy, I see your hand up.
I just want to put this out there. I think I raised it during our strategic planning meeting, but I can tell you from various conversations I have had with multiple community groups, when all of us are trying to increase our efforts at diversity, equity, and inclusion. There will be a challenge because people are saying, you know, my time has worth. And for a lot of us, we're doing this either as part of our jobs or we have the resources to be able to volunteer. And if we're really looking to increase the diversity, I don't know what you do when you specifically have a statute is very clear saying that members of the council are not compensated for their position. You know, I don't know, and I'm sure, you know, you would talk about it. It could conceivably, or it would have a budget impact. But whether there has been any thought to going to the legislature and say, if you really want to do these things and you really want valid input from the community, you need to recognize the value of people's time and you need to budget for it accordingly. So I just want to throw that out there for consideration again.
Thanks, Kathy. And you're right, that was feedback that we heard repeatedly when I reached out to some of the community groups and asked. That was an issue they raised immediately.
One other item I would say, Melissa and team, we can think about is that participation comes in many channels. And so obviously the ideal is to have people appointed to the council, coming to all the meetings and the sessions, but we ought to be thinking creatively about other ways and channels to get feedback, whether that's surveys, informal meet and greets, sort of community conversations. If there's a group that would be willing to put up a board for a short period of time when we're entering negotiations to collect some feedback, some quick feedback. I mean, we should just think of other ways we can get the feedback and perspective, even if we don't get the individuals committed as appointees.
Thanks, Claudia. I think that feeds really nicely into our outreach strategy that Heather's putting together and going to run by the group. And hopefully everybody sends us your great ideas for community partners we can contact and unique ways we can get to them, activities that might be helpful, you know, draw a crowd. Sometimes just saying we want your feedback and we're having a listening session or a focus group want. So what can we do to really entice people to want to come and let them know that their voices will be heard and that it's not just, you know, pulling them together to hear their voice and then just sit on their thoughts, that something will actually come out of their participation. But also, what can we do to get them in the door in the first place? So that's all I have on membership. I'll set Heather back to you.
Thank you. So the next item is number 6, public comment. And I know we have a guest, and I know he'd mentioned that it was having difficulty with connecting. So I don't know if you wish to put your comments in the chat, or if you're able to unmute now. As Melissa said, it's *6. So if you have a comment to share, please proceed. Okay. I noticed that he said no comments, just listening in today. Thanks for the opportunity. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. So the next item, Claudia, I will pass it over to you for a vote for executive session.
Right. Thank you. And thanks for everyone for the good conversation we've had so far. It is now 10:13 and I will entertain a motion that we adjourn and go into an executive session, or that we move into executive session.
So moved.
I have a motion. Kathy Flaherty, thank you. Do I have a second on that motion?
I second.
Second by Lucas. Anyone objecting? If not, it's ordered that we will move. Do we have to take a formal vote, Heather, or can we just do a voice vote to go in?
Voice vote works.
Okay, then I'll ask for everyone in favor of going into executive session to signal by saying aye.
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 And I will stop recording now, Claudia.
Great. We are in executive session.